Hey everybody, how are you all getting on? Thanks very much for clicking on my video again. And thank you very much to everybody that subscribed to my channel. I really do appreciate it. I was going to do a little video this evening on square taper bottom brackets. The reason I'm doing the video is it's a video that I searched a lot of when I started doing this, when I started doing bikes. And you probably all know RJ, the bike guy, on YouTube. So it was kind of him I watched. I watched a lot of different people doing these. I was a bit nervous of them at the beginning, but yeah, so I decided I'd do a video on my own little video on what I'm doing, right? Now this video won't be for everybody because what I'm doing here this evening is it's just like a service, but the bike that I'm doing it on is in really bad condition. So I get a lot of bikes donated to me. The bikes are donated to me, I do them up, and they just go, they're given to charity. So I was recently given 20 bikes, and the best of them are after being done up and given to the intended people. I don't want to get into it, but I'm on the worst bikes now, so I'm going to show you the bike in a minute. And I'd imagine a lot of you are going to look and say that I'm crazy to be doing work on this bike, but I have enough spare parts in my parts bin that once I have a good frame and I have a couple of, like a crankset, and once I have a few bits, I will put on new chain, new cassette. Well, it's freewheel, and I'll put on all new cables, and the bike will be fine. The people getting this bike are just looking for a bike for cycling around the town near where I live, and this is going to be ideal. So yeah, when I do show you the bike, it's in very bad condition, and you may ask yourself, why am I bothering? But I'm going to bother doing it anyway. There's a couple of different types of square taper bottom bracket, and I'm going to show you an example of kind of the two that I come across the most. So one that I come across quite a bit is this one. So if you've got a square taper bottom bracket that looks like that, okay, when we call them square taper bottom brackets, this is what we mean. It's got a square taper and it's an interference fit. The crankset is fitted onto that and it squares into place and it stays there pretty much. But that's not the one I'm doing this evening, because there is a much more common one that I find, and I apologize if this is not the one that's on your bike or the one you're looking for, but this is what I come across quite a lot on the bikes that I'm given. The bikes I'm given are usually cheap bikes that were bought for like teenagers in a house, or somebody bought it somewhere, they pick them up cheap, and once they puncture tires or they bust the chains in them, they just get thrown around sheds for years until they finally find their way to me. So this is the square taper bottom bracket that I'm going to do tonight. So if your square taper bottom bracket looks like this, right, then this is what I'm doing. So this is an adjustable cup. At one side it'll look exactly like that. Okay, it'll have a little adjustable ring on that side, and on this side it'll have a fixed cup. Now these are usually on the older bikes, but as I said, they're the kind of bikes I'm getting. So I'm going to do this tonight, and I'm going to kind of show you what I do. Now I'll have to remove the crankset, so I'll show you how I remove the crankset. And the bike that I'm doing right now is completely seized up. So this is probably a good example of kind of what I'm faced with and what I'm doing. So I'll show you the bike. So this is the bike. Pretty standard kind of bike that I get. It's in rough enough condition. That, look, I know you're looking. Yeah, that is all rust. It's properly rusted. The crankset is completely seized. I'm going to be using a lot of parts out of my parts bin, but when this bike is finished, it'll be fantastic. Now, as I was saying, this is the crankset here on this side. If your crankset looks like this, if you look at the side, it doesn't hold the chain, it's got that little adjusting ring on it, then that's the one I'm doing this evening. Okay, so I got to get this crankset off, and to get that crankset off, you have to move the bolt that's inside here. Now, that's the socket set, but what I like to do before I go at that is I like to give it a clean out. I have sprayed some penetrating oil on it, but what I like to do is I like to give it, now you can do this with a little wire brush. I have a drill and I have this little top on it, but I like to just get in here and just clean. I'm not trying to do anything to the treads. I'm just trying to clean the rust off the treads, if possible. And again, another little shot of penetrating oil, just so that when it starts to come out, it'll come out easier. Okay, and then it's only your socket set to get it off. So hopefully now this won't be too difficult. Okay, that's it. All right, we'll put that away somewhere safe. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to use is this crank removal tool. It's a pretty cheap one. You may find that if you go to a store, you may find something like this. It's the exact same thing, except that with this one you need to put it in and attach a spanner to the top of it, or you can use a socket set. So you'll either have this or this. This is what I'm going to be using tonight because it comes with its own handle. Now these can, like I'm buying these for on AliExpress for €8 or €9. I've never had a problem with them. This one here I got in a local store called Halford's. I think it was €12. So they're not expensive. Can you justify buying one? To service my bottom bracket, I'd say yes. If you're going to be servicing a bottom bracket like this, I'd say go ahead and buy one, you know. Now the important thing about these is that you make sure you tighten these as in all the way, but not over tighten. Okay. If you cross thread this, you're in serious trouble. So take your time. Tighten it until you feel it stop. Until you'll feel that point when the threads have gone all the way in, and stop at that point. But try and get it all the way in. So that's starting to tighten now. It's just a little bit. So I'm going to just give it that last little. I'm not over tightening it, but I am going to press it in. I need as much threads as possible engaged in here, because when I wind this, I'm pulling out against those threads. Okay, so when I wind this in, what I'm doing now is I'm pushing in against the axle and I'm pulling the crankset off. Okay, so hopefully this won't be too difficult. What you're hearing there is actually the bearings inside. Yeah. Okay. So I can feel that coming now. And that's the crankset off. Okay. Not the easiest job. Okay, but if you take your time, make sure you thread in properly, you shouldn't have a problem. Okay, now we're looking at the square taper bottom bracket. Okay. What I need to do now is, this is the adjustable ring. Okay, for full disclosure, before I say any more, I am going to take the crankset off the other side, right, the chain rings, but I'm not removing the fixed cup. I'll show you why in a minute, okay? Next thing to come off is this. Okay, there is a special tool for taking these off, okay? It connects in here, and and then I can just gently push down on it and it'll loosen. However, I don't think everybody's going to have one of these. They're not expensive, but can you justify buying one? I'm not too sure. I think this was €23-24. So no, I wouldn't suggest that people will go out and buy those. And again, I know this is going to upset quite a few people, but bear in mind, once I service this, I can be pretty sure it will never again be serviced. This bike is going to go to a family that need a bicycle. I'll do a nice job on this. It'll never again come apart. So yeah, so I'm going to open it here with a punch. You can do it with a 4-inch nail. There's loads of different ways of doing it. Any bike mechanic you talk to will tell you that he's seen it being done this way before. It's only a couple of taps. You're not going to destroy it, and it should come off easy enough. Now, as I said, this is completely seized. So this is how yours should be. This is only a tiny little ring. It's got a tiny amount of threads. It does come off pretty easily. Okay, so that's next. Okay. As you can see, that's in pretty bad condition. What you're looking at inside there is the ball bearings. They're all loose bearings. I'm going to replace it with loose bearings. But for now, yeah, that needs to come out. I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to repeat the process on this side. Going to remove this. These are coming off pretty easily for me. You may have a bit more difficulty than this. But I did spray these yesterday with penetrating oil. Just to give myself a chance. So yeah, so that's what we're taking out. We need to keep them. Sorry, I don't know if it's in view. Yeah, okay. And again, it's the same process. I am going to give it a little bit of a more of a clean. It's very rusty looking. So it's just to clean the rubbish off those threads if I can. Back in with the crank removal tool. Okay. You need to put these in nice and straight. The threads need to be clean. And do give them that little bit of a tighten. Just bait them in properly. That's it. Okay. As I was saying earlier, the more you can thread it in, the better it's going to be, but do not over tighten it. I see a lot of forum posts online about people having difficulty getting their crank off. But as you can see here, it can be done. Just take your time. I can feel that now coming. So that's it. At the beginning when I started doing this, I had a lot of trouble getting these things off, but not anymore. I just slow down, sit down, have a look at it, take your time, and you will get it off. Okay, so I'm not going to take this fixed cup off. I'm going to leave this here. And again, I know, look, I use the hammer to loosen the adjustable on the other side. A lot of people want like that. And I'm leaving the fixed cup on this side. A lot of people want to do that. But what I'm trying to show you here is all I want to do with this bike is get it usable again. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm not replacing these. If this was a bike for myself or I wanted to do a proper restoration, of course I'd take this out. These can be very difficult to get out. They're fixed in place, very difficult. I'm not taking it out. One thing I am going to do though, it's very important, is to mark this side. So in a lot of cases, the measurement, the distance on both sides is different, right? If you don't mark this side and you put this in the other way around, you may not be able to get your front derailleur to work. In some cases, the axle is longer or shorter at one side. If it's shorter at this side and you turn it the other way around and you now have it longer at this side, you will not get your derailleur to go out far enough. And likewise, if you turn it around and it's shorter at this side than it should be, sometimes, or vice versa, longer, sometimes you can't get the chain to go all the way in and you'll be puzzled. You'll be scratching your head thinking, what's wrong with my derailleur? And all that's wrong is this is the wrong way around. What you can use is Tipp-Ex. Put a little bit of Tipp-Ex on the end. Even if you want to, look, just to remind yourself, put the bolt back in. Okay, so I'll know now when I'm doing this that the bolt is in the side that comes out drive side. I always mark the drive side, okay? So I'll take you around. I know it's in very bad condition. I know that look, normally you'd say, will we replace this or change it? It won't be. So I'm going to take it out. I'm going to mark this side. I'm going to put it in. I know now the drive side is the side with the bolt nut. Okay, I can now clean this. Okay, it's in very bad condition, as you can see. I'm going to polish this up and I'll show you that next. Okay, so here it is. Okay, so all I've done is taken the heavy rust off it, and I'm paying particular attention to this area here. Sorry, I'm taking out a shot. Just want to clean it up, look, that's all. Okay, these are the bearings, a nice new set of bearings, and here's my axle that I cleaned up. If you're unsure about your bearings, even if you take the old broken cages that we took out of this, or even a singular bearing out of this, and take it to your bike shop, they should be able to give you these. They should know. You can take this with you if you want, but I don't think you'll need to. Just take a couple of the bearings or take the broken cages and bring it into them, and they'll give you. These are cheap, okay? These are cheap. So what I'm going to do, if you remember, we took this out from the opposite side. So this is going in this way, okay? Yeah? So this is what we're going to do. So I can't put it in with my little thing on, so I'll take this off. Now, putting on bearings. Okay. The bearings always go on flat side down. Okay. Never this way up. Look, it's tempting to put it this way, but then your flat side is up against the racing side here. Just try and remember, flat side down. It should look like that. Okay, see it? Flat side down. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this a good liberal coating of grease. I'm not going to be shy. Okay, and that's going in. That's one side done. These are going on this side, and again, flat side in. Yeah, does that make sense? I hope it does. So I'm going to grease these here. And I'm going to place them into the cup. But I'm also going to grease the inside of the cup. I'm going to put plenty of grease on. Okay. This way. So flat side. If you try and remember that the flat side is always facing the bike. And in it goes. And now it's only a case of threading this in. Now I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the threads. Just to make life easier for adjusting it afterwards. Okay. Okay, so I've threaded this in, and there's still plenty of play here. So by play I mean I can wobble this up and down. It's not tight yet, okay? Now I'm going to put on the lock ring and I'm going to tighten that in. Now, okay. I'm going to skip forward now till I have the crank back on, because you should never adjust these until you put the crank on. If you adjust these now with your finger, trying to feel for play, you will definitely put the crank on afterwards and find there is movement. Because when you put the crank on, you now have a lever and you can actually get movement. And any time you've got movement in this, you'll eventually get water going in. You need it tight. You need to get this a nice snug fit. So I'm going to put on the cranks and I'll show you that then next. Refitting the cranks is a pretty straightforward process. I do like to put a bit of grease here, okay? And again, I know a lot of people online that say this should be dry. It's an interference fit, but I don't agree with that. I like to put a little bit of oil on, a little bit of grease, sorry, and then I just snug it in. The next thing now is the fitting here. So the next thing to do now is to put this guy in. And what he's going to do is, if you look at the top of this, see the flat? There's a flat section just here. Well, that flat section pushes that crank in against the square taper. Okay, it can't come off. I don't believe in fitting these dry, because once this is on, it cannot come off. Okay, it won't come off. So in we go. I'm going to fit this. Now, because I've put a little bit of grease on that taper, I can afford to tighten this up. Okay. Now, as you tighten it, you're pushing it that way. There is one other thing that I do. When you're tightening these cranks on, okay, what you're trying to get it to do, I hope you're at a good angle. I'll show you here. Is that better? What you're trying to get this to squeeze onto that square taper. You can do that by tightening this. But what you can also do, and I wouldn't do this with a nice new shiny set of cranks, but I always just give it a little tap. And when you give it that little tap, you'll find that there's more, you can tighten more, okay? So again, if I just give it a little tap, just a tiny tap, okay? What you're doing is, this is now squeezing this, you're just tightening. And there you go. So I got probably a quarter of an extra turn there, just to make sure that's properly seated. Okay, so it's the same as the last time. Just make sure when you put these on that they're opposite, that they're opposite the other one. I know that might make sense, but just if you can see the other crank here behind. Yeah, just make sure that one is opposite the other one. Okay. And we're going to tighten that in. We're going to do the exact same as we did on the other side. I will be changing that pedal for anyone that's looking at it. Yeah, these bikes are never in good condition. But it'll be a lovely bike when it's finished. It really will. Now it's at about this point here I can feel it squeezing. So it's starting to tighten. It's starting to tighten it's the interference fit. It's squeezing into place. And similar to what I done on the other one, I'm just going to give it the tiniest. Now that it's tight, there's tension there now. This is after tightening. It's pushing that way. Just a bare little tap. And that bare little tap means that you'll get another squeeze out of this. And there you go. Now, as I was saying earlier, I leave the adjustment until I have the cranks on, because now I can catch the crank and I can move it. And I can't show you, but there's knocking. That's knocking. There's play there, okay? And I need to take the play out of that by tightening this cup in and then tightening the lock ring so that it never comes loose again. I'm fully certain that if any of you are at home doing this, it'll make sense when you're doing it. You'll look at this and you'll figure it out. Don't be afraid to go at these. I was, when I started out, I was nervous of going at square taper bottom brackets, because I was afraid that I was going to make a mess of it. And it was a little bit daunting, but there's nothing to be worried about. I'm absolutely certain most people, anyone that's found my channel, would probably be able to do this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten this in here a little bit, and what I'm doing is I'm squeezing the bearings. I'm tightening the bearings. I'm taking any of the slop out of it. It's very little. I just give it a little turn. Now that's actually really well. I wish it hadn't worked that easy, because it'd be better if I had to do it a few times, but that's perfect. Now, the last thing that I like to do is when I'm turning these pedals, right, I like to turn them with one finger and do not use the pedal. Okay, I'm trying to get the pedal back into focus for you. Don't twist with the pedal, because the bearings of this pedal are shot. They're absolutely terrible. So it feels gritty. When I'm moving this around in a circle, it feels awful. And you may think that that's the bearings in here. It's not. These are lovely now. What's wrong is these. So put your finger on the crank, if that's the only tip you learn tonight, and spin. And that feels really good. Considering now, you can see how nicely it's spinning. Considering that that was lock solid when I started, that's really well. And for a bike, for what it's going to be, and its purpose and what it's going to serve, it's amazing. It's going to be fantastic. That's one job done. Okay. But what I need to do now, I have this inner. This is exactly where I want it, but I now need to tighten this lock ring down. This lock ring holds this in place. One of the problems you may face is when you're tightening the lock ring, there is a special tool. With the tool, you can hold this nut and you can tighten the lock ring. Okay, I'm going to try and show you how I do it without that tool. Right, put this in place. Okay. And now all I want to do is use my, again, I know some of you are looking at me and you're saying, oh my God, he's actually, because this, most people wouldn't do this, okay? And I'm just going to tighten the lock ring this way. That's pretty tight. I do want to tighten it more, but when I'm tightening now, I'm going to keep an eye on this. This shouldn't move now, but I'm just going to keep an eye on it to make sure it isn't tightening anymore. Perfect. Okay. When you see I'm falling back into the center position like that, you know you've done a good job. There's no play in it. I'm very happy with it. Right. I just want to tighten this lock ring. I just want to tighten the lock ring a little bit more. And that's it. Beautiful. And there's no play in it. Well, that's that job done. If you've watched any of my videos previously, this one might throw you a little bit. You might think, Jesus, he was like, I didn't remove the fixed cup at the back, and I was using a hammer and a punch, which is sacrilege, and I put grease on the square taper. So there's loads of things there that people may watch this video and disagree with me, right? However, I know I said it a couple of times through the video, but when I started this fixing bikes, I didn't have anyone to train me. I learned a lot of my stuff off YouTube, and then over the years I've just worked on so many bikes. I come across the same problem, the same type of bike. I come across the same type of problem, and sometimes like you can't afford. I certainly with these, I definitely can't put money into these bikes. Okay, and I don't want to spend the evening trying to take off a fixed cup. And maybe, maybe I do have the right tool, right? But maybe that fixed cup would have come off easy. But to what benefit? I mean, unless I'm replacing the cups and I want the bike to be like new, then there's no real point. Now, if you do that job, but if you do it right, there'll be years of cycling out of that bike before those bearings give a problem again. There really will be. I don't know what happened to them originally. They were destroyed in rust. I suspect the fixed cup or the adjustable cup, I apologize, I suspect the adjustable cup came loose and you had water ingress. It was probably left out in the rain. I mean, like, I will be telling the people that I give the bike to that they should try and keep it under cover. You know, it will be used daily, and if a bike is used Usually this doesn't happen. It's when they're left sit there and the water is going down the frame and it's seeping in the same place. That's just my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I really appreciate everyone that's after subscribing to me. I have over 300 people. I know that at this stage, some of my family have kind of found me on YouTube. I was drunk one night, I mentioned it, so I might have 9 or 10 kind of family friends. But the rest of you, I have no idea who you are, why you're subscribing, but I really appreciate it. If you got this far in the video, you're an absolute legend. Thank you very much. And I'll try not to leave such a length of time between videos. I have a couple of projects in mind. I actually have a project bike here that I'm super looking forward to doing. It's a vintage racer. And yeah, that might be my next one. See you later. Thank you.